how-to video. This one we're going to be fitting some LED H7 bulbs to the high beam on the standard Hella Xenon headlamp units as fitted to the E39. So this is what your standard Xenon headlight unit looks like. You've got the ballast, the halo or angel eye LED, which I've changed from the standard bulb, and then the D2S Xenon bulb, which we don't need to touch. If you are going to be messing with a headlight system, make sure your headlights are turned off, as the output of the Xenon ballast is quite high, somewhere in the region of around about 35,000 volts to illuminate the bulb. Then obviously once it's running, that throttles itself back down to something a bit more sensible, but still you don't want to get a belt off it. So down here is the H7 headlight bulb, which as you can see I've removed already. Be super careful when removing them, as the headlights in E39s are very well known for headlight adjuster failure. Due to the age, the hot and cold cycle, the headlight adjusters become brittle, and then when you try taking a bulb out, if you use a bit too much force, you end up snapping the adjusters inside your headlight. Early 2000 facelift, right through to 2002, you can change the adjusters by putting the headlight in the oven, separating the lens from the body, putting new adjusters in, and refitting it all back together. The reason you need to put it in the oven is to melt the glue. You don't need it on too warm, about 100 Fahrenheit or 80 degrees Celsius or thereabouts. For about 5 minutes usually does it, so you don't want it too hot to handle, but you want it warm enough to be able to melt the glue. If you're unlucky enough to have 2003 headlights, then the bonding agent which was used, you cannot physically melt it in the oven, so you have to change the headlight adjusters a different way. The headlights on my car were changed at BMW prior to me buying the car. It's got the later headlights on, so if my adjusters fail, it's either new headlight units for me, or I'm going to have to go in through the back and change them that way. There are plenty of guides online on how to do that. It's very fiddly, and if you've got big chunky sausage fingers, then you're a bit stuffed. You need quite slim, nimble fingers to be able to do the job. So we're going to have a look at the LED headlight bulbs and go from there. So this is the headlight bulbs which I've purchased. So I'm going to unbox them. Reasonably decent cardboard box. Tell they come from China though. And then inside you've got a couple of headlight bulbs. Quality feels reasonably good. And immediately I can see the issue of not being able to use headlight adapters to go and hold these into the headlight housing. And also, due to the heat sink on the back and the little fan which is used to keep them cool, it might be a bit too long for fitting into the H7 unit with the ballasts. So we'll have a go and see if it fits in. So already I can tell it's going to be a bit of a struggle, and I might end up having to remove the ballasts. So I'll come back to you in a minute once I've worked out a way of getting these in without removing the ballasts. If I have to remove it, it's no big deal. After a few minutes of struggling and some swearing, I do like to have a good swear, decided that it's not going to fit without removing the ballast unit, and to do that it's simply a case of a small 8mm headed screw down there. If you remove that, then you'll be able to move the ballast unit out of the way. You don't need to remove it completely, just enough so that you can squeeze the headlight bulb in. This is what the headlight now looks like once you've removed the ballast. So the 8mm bolt there, and then just under the headlight adjuster is an 8mm nut. So if you remove them, then you'll be able to lean back the ballast unit, then you'll have more room for working, so you can get your bulb in. So we're going to have a trial fit of the bulb. see if everything fits okay. And that fits fine into the headlight housing, which I would expect. And then that's what it looks like from the front, inside the headlight housing. And you want the LEDs to be horizontal, so they hit the reflectors and then reflect the light forwards onto the road. So the next job is to work out how to secure this into the housing, as the original H7 bulbs have this setup, which if you damage, it's no big deal because you can get new ones off eBay for pennies, less than a £5 delivered. You can get a new set, so it's no big deal. So I'm in the vein of quite have to modify that to make it fit and see how we're going from there. Might have to take the LED unit in pieces to be able to get the holder over it to secure it in place, but we'll cross that bridge once we come to it, and you'll see what I've done once I've done it. I've noticed on these LED bulbs that the H7 base is pushed onto the body of the bulb itself. If we look at this one, the base is right down to the body, and this one, because I've slid it up a little bit, the base is moving further up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide the base off the LED and then use some H7 adapters, not these particular ones, because these are the originals, and I've decided against cutting them up now because they're original really, and use some adapters that are available on the internet which allow you to fit a H7 bulb into the Xenon Headlight high beam bulb holder. So when you come back next, that collar will be inside here, the shroud will be pushed back on, and then the entire unit will be fitted onto the vehicle, ready for use. Before I decide to start taking the LED in bits, I've plugged it into the original housing. Make sure you orientate the positive and the negative correctly, otherwise the LED won't work. On the original housing it's the bottom plug for the positive, and then I've fitted the LED into the holder just so I can hold it in, so I can see what the bulb looks like. And the camera probably won't pick it up because it's a bit bright. And if I stand in front of the Xenon, then you'll be able to see on the cupboard how bright it is, and hopefully at night time that'll be really good. Certainly a lot crisper white than the existing H7 bulbs, and if this is a success, then I'll be upgrading my fog lights to LEDs as well, as the fog lights, due to the new fog light I've fitted with smoke lenses, are very dim, more like side marker lights. And with the intra-V system that I've got, the fog lights also illuminate on indication as well. So if I turn left, I'll use the left hand indicator, the fog light lights up as long as the indicator's on. Once you've finished removing the base mounting ring from the bulb, this is what you're left with. And then I'm going to use some collars to go over the bulb, then allow us to fit the base back on, and then that'll go into the headlight as one complete unit. Now the problem with these is the collar has a slight inward curl at the end, and it won't go far enough down the bulb due to the massive heat sink on it. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut these down slightly to make them fit then when we put it all back together. I've left one of the bulbs with the base mounting still on, so I know where it is with regards to orientation, so when I put the base back on. And also, as a side note, when you're pulling the bulb base off, these little aluminium fins are like little razors. My finger was cut to shreds the other day, and my thumb looks like somebody's been at it with a Stanley blade. So make sure you wear a decent pair of gloves, otherwise you'll end up like me with blood all over the place. So I'm going to modify this, then come back and put it all back together. Now we've got the mounting brackets and shroud back onto the bulb. This is what it looks like, and you only need to trim about 1/4 inch off it. It's just to get rid of that indentation at the bottom. We don't need that bit. And we've put it all back together, and that's a nice solid unit ready for fitment. When you're putting the collar back on, don't use brute force, don't use a hammer, just use a socket over the top and apply weight gently down, then it will slide down and you'll be able to get it put back on without causing any damage at all. Then that will fit into the headlight absolutely perfectly. I'm going to use the old bulb holder base as the converter from the H7 style fitment to the BMW plug socket, making sure that you get the positive and negative correctly. So as you're looking at the bulb holder, the positive is at the bottom with the wiring loom plug pointing upwards, and the positive is clearly indicated on the wire for the LED bulb. So I'm going to modify the other ones, then fit them back to the vehicle and show you it's all working. If when you attempt to refit the LED into the headlight you find that due to the new O-ring on the seating base the unit won't go in, don't try and force it, because you'll end up snapping your headlight adjusters and that'll create you a whole load of pain. Remove the O-ring, or alternatively put a drop of grease on it and rub the grease all the way around, which is what I tried first. If you find that doesn't work, remove it completely and put a couple of smaller O-rings on inside. Then you'll find that the headlight bulb will go in, seal correctly still, and not wobble around. Whatever you do, don't force the headlight bulb in, because you will end up snapping the headlight adjusters. And if you do that, then as I said right at the beginning of the video, you're in a whole world of annoyance, pain, baking your headlights in the oven. If you're lucky enough to have the earlier headlights, if you've got the 2003 ones, then you're stuffed. You have to either buy some new ones or go in through the back and change the adjusters in a super fiddly way. Now the LED headlight bulb is back in the housing. I'm going to test it to make sure it all works. So all that works perfectly fine, and now it's just a case of repeating and doing the same for the other side. And then this is what I mean by using the plug as a wiring converter. And once the ballast is put back together, this will tuck here out of the way, and so it'll look relatively OEM under there still. Now the bulbs are fitted, the next thing you'll need to do, as the car has the cold check system still engaged for the headlight bulbs, so when you turn the headlight bulbs on, turn the ignition on, the headlight bulbs will strobe because the lighting check module sends a small electrical current down to check that the headlight bulb is still operational. So I'll just demonstrate that with the ignition. As you can see, the bulbs are strobing, and we don't particularly want that. It's a bit annoying at best and could possibly be illegal as well. So to get rid of that issue, we're going to plug in the computer using nav coder. I'm going to turn off the cold check in the headlight bulbs, then that will eliminate the strobing. You can also do this with PA Soft if you've got that as well, which I do, but I prefer to use nav coder as it's nice and easy. As a footnote, if you've got an intra-V fitted, which I do, before you start nav coder you'll need to disconnect your intra-V, otherwise it will send spurious information down the CAN bus system and the nav coder won't be able to program the lighting check module properly, and it'll just throw up a load of error codes and do a programming failed error. Right, the next part of it is to code the light control module. So plugged in my diagnostic cable, fired up the machine. I'm going to run it through nav coder. So it's telling me that it's not been updated in a while, but not too fussed with that. So nav coder's loaded up, pop the ignition on, then go to the code menu, light check module, then it'll bring up the light check module. Everything's in grey at the moment, as it's not being able to identify the LCM until I press read LCM. Press that, tells me it's been successfully read and being updated with the new settings. And at the top here now is where we're going to program it. So the high beam headlights, all we do is get rid of cold warning, and that is it. Press code LCM, recodes the headlights, recodes the light control module, gives you a message saying it's been done successfully, and tells you to turn the ignition off and wait 10 seconds, so we're going to do that. And now, after this time, when we turn the ignition back on, the light control module won't be sending the little pulses of current down to the headlights to check that they're there. So we'll go check that and make sure that's okay. Right, now to prove that the cold coding has worked, I'm going to turn the ignition on and check for the high beam lights pulsing, and this shouldn't do. So the headlight bulbs don't pulse, the cold check has been coded out to the LCM, and that stops the headlight bulb pulsing. But if headlight bulb fails still, it will still warn me, as the warnings have been left coded in. So that concludes the retrofitting of LED headlight bulbs into the E39 Xenon headlights. If you liked the video, drop us a comment. If any adverts pop up, give them a click, as I get a few pence for each advert that gets clicked on, and it all goes towards helping pay for these projects. A few pence might not sound like much, but it adds up at the end of the day. We'll be back soon with some more videos. and there's quite a bit of work that I want to do on the car over winter, including rear subframe bushes, brake line replacement under the fuel tank and rear subframe. So we'll come back later on with them videos, and hopefully you're enjoying watching them, and thank you.